And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm George Thomas. Well, the suspect is in custody. In the Charleston church shooting is in custody, as I mentioned, and the city there continues to grieve the lives of 9 people lost. Around the country, churches are responding to the shooting by holding vigils and honoring the victims. Meanwhile, officials are working to find a motive behind the deadly attack. Caitlin Burke has more.
The suspect of the Charleston shooting may be in custody, but grieving over the attack has only just begun.
We have some grieving too, and we've got some pain we have to go through. Parents are having to explain to their kids how they can go to church and feel safe, and that's not something we ever thought we'd deal with.
The suspected gunman in that church shooting has been identified as 21-year-old Dylan Roof. He was captured just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, 12 hours after opening fire in a historic black church Wednesday night.
We will get through it. Our church will get through it. It's tough times, but I know for a fact everybody will press on.
Among the victims, the church's pastor, Clementa Pinckney, a beloved shepherd as well as a state senator. Survivors say he died doing what he loved, spreading the word. Federal law enforcement officers are investigating the attack as a possible hate crime. Survivors and even the suspect's friends say he spewed hate.
He said that he thought that the black in general as a race was bringing down the white race.
While Roof is accused of acting out of hate, there's been only love and unity in the wake of the tragedy.
Of course, I'm angry that he did it, but the Bible I use teaches us to love.
Communities across the country are also beginning to discuss the issue of church safety. Pastor and CBN News Chief of Police Chris Mitchell says the church is vulnerable but must not lose sight of its mission.
Nationally, across the world, there's an increase in violence towards Christians. Of course, that would incite others that don't particularly care for the Christian faith to do those same type of attacks against us. So it's important for us to always remain vigilant, but yet at the same time, always operate with love.
Reports from across the country today that the church will continue to come together with vigils and other memorials to honor the victims. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Thanks, Caitlin. Moving overseas now to Israel, where a Galilee church built to honor one of the most famous stories in the New Testament has been attacked. Jewish extremists set fire to the church of the multiplication of the loaves and fishes in Tabqa. The church commemorates Jesus' feeding of the 5,000. The fire burned the roof, several offices, and a community room. Hebrew graffiti spray painted on the wall said, quote, "Idolaters will be eliminated." The Israeli government pledged a speedy investigation.
Representative of our ministry is on the ground there in the Galilee in order to see everything and in order to make sure that everything will be rebuilt immediately. And I'm sure that those extremists who did these things will be caught. And I can assure everyone that Israel is a place that welcomes everyone from every religion. As you can see here, it's maybe the safest place in the world for tourists.
The church is one of the most visited sites in Israel. One other item from overseas, Al-Qaeda is denying that one of its key leaders was killed in a U.S. drone strike. The group released a statement saying Mokhtar is, quote, "alive and kicking and wandering the land of God." Mokhtar is a major terrorist figure responsible for several insurgencies across North Africa. Earlier in the week, Libyan officials said he, along with several other Islamic militants, were killed in a drone strike. Well, the remnants of the tropical storm Bill are causing major flooding as the system moves further inland. Arkansas and Oklahoma have been hit the hardest with about 10 inches of rain between Wednesday night and Thursday. Authorities in Oklahoma have recovered the body of an 80-year-old woman and a 2-year-old boy who was tragically pulled from his father's arms by raging waters Wednesday. City officials in Decatur, Indiana, are advising residents to evacuate their homes as they expect rivers to continue rising to record highs.
Well, I can't get in and out of my house at all. Luckily, someone had a canoe and was able to take me to the road so I could get up to my home and get a few things so I can stay with my parents for a few days.
Incredible pictures there. Today there are flood warnings across the Ozarks and mid-Mississippi Valley. Should the Supreme Court write the law of the land or leave it to the lawmakers? Well, that is one issue at stake in the court's marriage ruling that could come at any moment. We'll soon know if the justices think that they have the power to create a right to same-sex marriage. But Christian leaders say either way, they will only obey God's laws. Paul Strand has the story.
Since the Constitution is quiet on marriage, prominent traditional marriage defender Ryan Anderson wishes the Supreme Court would just toss the gay marriage controversy back to each state.
Where the Constitution is silent, the people in the states and our elected representatives should be making marriage policy.
Many court observers think since gay marriage is already legal in so many of the states, the justices might find it the simplest thing to go ahead and just say, let's make it the law of the land in all 50. But even a ruling as simple as that will have serious implications.
Anderson believes it'll set off a culture war as divisive as Roe v. Wade.
In the same exact way, if they strike down these marriage laws, they got the Constitution wrong, they got marriage wrong, it's judicial activism.
And speak of activism, some states have already punished bakers, florists, and photographers who won't support gay marriage with their businesses. Now imagine if gay marriage is legalized nationwide. Franklin Graham recently wrote, quote, "There will be a storm of persecution against all people who follow God and His standards if this passes."
There seems to be a trajectory that things that are biblical are becoming less and less okay to say in the public sphere.
But that didn't stop Southern Baptist leaders this week declaring they won't accept or adhere to any legal redefinition of marriage issued by the Supreme Court or any other governmental body.
Several Christian leaders are calling for some form of civil disobedience.
Trammell says this is their stand.
Put in the position of choosing between obeying God and obeying government. We're going to obey God. And if there are legal implications because of that, that's something that we're willing to accept.
And they'll likely have to, as more people are branding backers of traditional marriage as no better than bigots or racists. As Republican presidential candidate Marco Rubio told CBN News' David Brody,
"If you do not support same-sex marriage, you are labeled a homophobe and a hater."
They want to say that our beliefs about marriage are like the racist beliefs, and therefore, like the Bob Jones University case, we should lose our tax-exempt status.
Anderson is referring to a frightening exchange between Justice Samuel Alito and the government Solicitor General Donald Verrilli during the hearing on gay marriage. Alito asked, in the Bob Jones case, the court held that a college was not entitled to tax-exempt status if it opposed interracial marriage or interracial dating. So would the same apply to a university or a college if it opposed same-sex marriage? The Solicitor General replied, "It's certainly going to be an issue. I don't deny that. I don't deny that, Justice Alito. It is. It is going to be an issue."
I was in the courtroom for oral arguments, and those comments by the Solicitor General, that exchange about whether or not tax-exempt status for Orthodox, Jewish, Roman Catholic, Evangelical Christian, Latter-day Saint institutions, lots of religious believers who are at risk here. When he said it is going to be an issue, it was chilling.
Even without the court having made gay marriage the law of the land, Christians who take a biblical stand on gay marriage have found themselves challenged in the courts. So the implication is any more legitimacy given to gay marriage means Christians batten down the hatches, rough days are ahead. Paul Strand, CBN News, the Supreme Court.
Coming up, we're talking about an absent father epidemic, and we'll hear from the man who is starting a musical movement to fight the problem. And welcome back to the show. They're MIA, missing in action. I'm talking about fathers. Without dads, the family foundation has crumbled for many kids here in America. While the problem isn't new, a movement created by 3 Christian musicians to solve it certainly is. Here's Ephraim Graham with that amazing story.
When you hear the phrase Renaissance movement, you might think of artists like Da Vinci, Donatello, and Michelangelo. Now, 3 Virginia artists who go by the names Legend, Mike, and Sinai want a different kind of Renaissance. One that would create a rebirth in today's culture, using rap, which one recent study calls the most important music genre in the past century.
Renaissance is a family of artists, and we just love God, love the gospel, really enjoy hip-hop, and we just use that as a tool to communicate the thing that's most sacred to us.
Their mission? Use the same beats, hooks, and rhymes that attract the masses to hip-hop while countering the usual negative message with the gospel. Apart from their love for God and passion for hip-hop, the three share a painful past, growing up without a father.
As I was growing up, I kind of hated my father, my biological father, because of the struggles that I had to see my mother go through.
It was difficult not having someone to speak into my life. I was getting that from my music.
It was probably around 11 to 12 when the realization that he wasn't here by choice hit, and that turned into bitterness.
As young people, each struggled with finding their identity and worth. God changed the hearts of Mike and Sinai's fathers, eventually leading to healthy relationships. Legend's father also reached out, but the reconciliation was short-lived, dying just months after asking for his son's forgiveness. Legend writes about that pain and his journey to forgiveness in the song Wish I Knew.
You've been forgiven by me. At the cross, my healing was purchased in advance for this pain right now I'm feeling. But it still sucks that I won't get another minute. Cause man, I really wish our story had a better ending.
These artists believe their first-hand experience puts them in the best position to fight this growing epidemic. Almost 25 million children in the United States are growing up without a father. That's 1 in 3. The African American community is hit the hardest, affecting more than half of black children. Experts call those numbers the fruit of a broken system.
Before the advent of the welfare state, there were very viable, prosperous, middle-class African American families all through this country. It was the devastation created by the welfare system that began this process.
Welfare critics say the system creates an incentive to have children out of wedlock. Why? Because an unwed single mother will receive more assistance if she is alone than if she has an employed husband in the home. In his book, Taken into Custody, Dr. Baskerville adds that government-based fatherhood initiatives aren't really helping anyone.
It's ironic that the government first creates the problem by removing the father from the home, and then they claim that they're solving the problem by creating expensive government programs to encourage fatherhood and restore fatherhood.
While not all African American children are on welfare, the fact remains 72% live in single-parent homes. That's what Legend, Sinai, and Mike hope to change by being the dads their fathers chose not to be, creating a music environment that connects people to a God who can help heal wounds left by a dad who wasn't there.
We pray that we really do start a movement of other artists who, rise up as well, that we can help rise up, that we'll be able to go out there and make good art with great content, have influence over the culture, and take a lot of the ears from people that are promoting the sex, the drugs, the violence as the main things you lift up, and take that influence away and say, no, that's not the way. It doesn't end well for you. It never has ended well for anybody. There's a better message to listen to, and we believe that message is in Christ.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Great stuff. Joining me now is Nigel Anderson, also known as Legend. He's the founder of Renaissance Movement Music. Great to have you on the broadcast. Tremendous ministry. Listen, Father's Day can be very difficult for those who don't have fathers in the home this weekend. How do you encourage those who don't have a father?
My encouragement is to look to your Heavenly Father, who's never going to let you down. You can have the greatest father in the world, but he will never let you down. Father's Day was always difficult for me. And I'd always been in church, but at 21, I embraced the gospel and found that I was adopted by my father. And I was like, wow, this is amazing, adopted by God. Yeah. And I was like, this is great.
And what did that do to you? I mean, knowing that you didn't have a father present in your home and losing him just a few months before you could, really talk to him and minister to him.
It just changed my perspective about what fatherhood was, because again, I realized at that moment that the entire time I had access to a perfect father who was waiting for me to come back. I was a prodigal in some ways. But I didn't, it made me see that even if my dad was here and was the perfect dad, he still couldn't have given me what God could have given me. So I was never without, in a sense, even though there is that physical deficiency from not having your dad at home.
Let's talk about the music. You have a mixtape, a new one coming out. Tell me about it.
First King is coming out June 30th. It's going to be on our Facebook page, facebook.com/RM Music TV, and it's just lifting up our first king. We feel like too many people want to sit in his throne, whether they be entertainers, pastors, rappers, whatever, and it's only the throne for Jesus. So we just want to lift him up and talk about that.
Do you have a segment you can share with us right now?
Yeah, I've got a piece about fatherhood, actually. Okay. It's fitting. See, we are all fathers who love wives, we're all husbands who love wives, fathers all in our kids' lives, love God and we hate evil, left wrong and we live right, make dope music when the light's off, but you won't catch us slipping off the mic, ain't just a job, ain't just rap, this just how we live life. Say the Bible is fairy tales, written by dudes who made it up, investigated the claim of Jesus, went in that grave, but he made it up. Street dudes, porn addicts, womanizers, gave it up, found God, heard about grace, asked for a taste, he gave us some, and that's all it is.
Wow, powerful. And that ministers to people. I mean, you're reaching the culture where they are, especially with this genre of music.
Yeah, man. I mean, I wanted to believe that fatherlessness was a black problem, and it's disproportionately so. Yeah,
Sure,
it's disproportionately so.
Yeah.
But I mean, I kept meeting people from all walks of life that had the exact same story as me, whether they had a silver spoon or not. And I was like, wow, man, this is a heart issue. It just proved the depravity of man more to me, and that we all need the gospel.
Well, you are spreading a very, very important message. And sir, I know you have 2 kids.
Yes,
Happy
sir.
Father's Day.
Thank you, my man.
Okay,
Same
folks.
to you.
Well, you can head to our website, cbnnews.com, to learn more about what Renaissance music, movement music is all about. Legend, thank you so much for being on the broadcast.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, folks. Well, coming up next, smartphones have revolutionized the way we take pictures. We will show you how a new tech company is hoping to revolutionize the way you print those images. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Well, I think the best advice my dad ever gave me is to be tough. And that is difficult advice to hear as a little girl growing up. But as an adult, I realized that was great advice.
And welcome back to the broadcast. Hey, remember those old Polaroid cameras, the ones that let you print a picture as soon as you took them? Well, that idea has been reimagined by a new startup, new tech startup that is. Caleb Kinchlow and Ephraim Graham show you how.
Hey, Ephraim, I bet you have a lot of pictures on your smartphone.
Indeed I do. That's my wife, son, and daughter. That's my grandmother, 97 years old.
She looks good.
She does. And there is my little cousin, Layla.
I bet you don't have tangible copies of those pictures.
Absolutely not. Why do I need that?
Well, why do you need it? Well, what if you want actual copies to hold in your hand to keep forever?
That would be nice, but it's hard to do.
Well, a new tech company called Print is hoping to change all that.
Really? How so?
It's a printer that snaps onto your smartphone. I, for one, think it's going to revolutionize the whole picture-taking game.
You know, it might, but it sounds like I've heard this before.
The incredible new low-priced Polaroid land camera.
It is a little similar, but there are some different features.
We wanted to go further than just printing pictures. And so what we started doing at first was just image recognition and making sure we could recognize any printed picture from any smartphone. And then what we added on top of that was, well, giving life to those pictures. And for that, we used augmented reality.
The device requires no ink, Bluetooth, or Wi-Fi, and it doesn't pull any power from your smartphone.
Yeah, but how cool is the price?
The price is even cooler. It's only $129, which includes 10 sheets of the paper. Comes out this fall.
All right, well, I guess that makes print tech worth talking about.
Thanks, guys. I mean, really, I have like thousands of pictures on my phone. There's no way I'm going to be printing it. Okay, we'll be back right after this.
One of the most important lessons I learned from my dad was when he wasn't even talking to me. He was talking to my older brother, who was a young college student up there ready to change the world, criticizing, complaining about everything going on. My dad said, if you're going to criticize things, you have to have a solution for the problem. Don't just criticize, but come up with an answer. Otherwise, there's no point in even talking.
What does it take to be a man? Well, that's a question a new Christian film called The Secret Handshake asks. The film stars Kevin Sorbo of God's Not Dead fame as a suburban father of 3 girls who takes on the challenge of mentoring a troubled young man who has a crush on his teenage daughter. The Secret Handshake is now available on DVD exclusively in Walmart stores. And if you are looking for some other entertainment options for this Father's Day weekend, you are in the right place. Joining me now is Bob Waliszewski. He's with Focus on the Family's entertainment review department called Plugged In Online. Bob, great to have you back on the broadcast. Listen, first film we are talking about is Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. Bob, the title sounds kind of depressing. Is this a family-friendly film? Now talk to me.
Well, I'll tell you, this is actually a family-friendly film at its core, surrounded by so much yuck that I can't recommend it. At its core, it's about a high school boy whose mother forces him to go over to a girl's house who he finds out has leukemia to spend some time with her. He doesn't want to go, and when he gets there, she doesn't want him there. But eventually they become fast friends and very close friends. And that friendship is actually really kind of special. But couched around it is so much sensual talk, so much crass and crude talk, so much profanity in this film that we gave this film a mere 2 out of 5 for family friendliness. I wish they would have edited this one because this one had potential.
Okay, so another one we are talking about here is the new Pixar animation film. It's also coming out. It's called Inside Out. What do you think of this one?
Love this film. It has now become my second favorite Pixar film. That's just my own personal view. I like Up still a little bit better, but I like this better than Monsters, Inc. or Toy Story or the rest. This one is about an 11-year-old girl named Riley who with her parents moves from Minnesota to San Francisco. All the newness and leaving her friends and being at school and being in a new home. She's got all these processing these thoughts. And then we go inside her head and find out there are 5 little emotion characters that basically run the control board of her mind. We have joy and sadness and anger and disgust, etc. And it's really cute to watch what's happening there, especially when joy and sadness are banished from the control room of her mind to kind of a fertile area of her mind, and the others take control. Riley might get a little cranky. This one's very much out of the box. We've never seen anything like it, but in Pixar style, it's very, very cute. The only thing we knocked it down a half point for was a little bit of irresponsible behavior on the part of Riley, but I think parents can talk through that. I think this one, families may want to load the minivan.
Okay, terrific. Okay, Bob Waliszewski with focus on the family's plugged-in online division. As always, great to have your insights on the latest that hit the theaters around the country. Thank you so much. Hey, by the way, happy Father's Day to you, sir.
You too, George.
Okay, thanks for being with us. Well, folks, that's it for now on CBN NewsWatch. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next week, have a great weekend and happy Father's Day.